The diner's neon sign flickered, casting a red glow across the cracked pavement outside. I sat across from Eli, my younger brother, watching him twirl a straw in his milkshake, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. The moment I realized I loved him not just as a brother, but as something more, felt like a betrayal of everything I'd ever known. We'd grown up in Willow Creek, a sleepy Montana town where everyone knew your name and your secrets. I was 28, a mechanic with grease-stained hands and a life mapped out, marry Sarah, my high school sweetheart, fix cars, maybe have kids someday. Eli was 19, a college freshman with dreams bigger than this town could hold, his laughter bright enough to light up the darkest corners of my world. That night, in Rosie's diner, his hazel eyes caught mine, and something shifted. I couldn't look away. My heart pounded, not with the familiar comfort of brotherhood, but with a hunger I didn't dare name. The jukebox played an old Springsteen tune, and Eli hummed along, his voice soft but sure. "You okay, Caleb?" he asked, tilting his head. His concern was so genuine it hurt. I nodded, forcing a smile, but my hands trembled under the table. How could I tell him that every glance, every laugh, was unraveling the life I'd built? That I was terrified of what I felt, of what it meant for us, for our family, for the town that watched us like hawks. Willow Creek wasn't kind to differences. I'd seen it in the whispers about Tommy, the florist who left town after someone spray-painted slurs on his shop. I'd heard it in the sermons at church, where Pastor Dan preached about sinful choices with a fire that made my stomach churn. I'd spent years convincing myself I was straight, that my fleeting thoughts about men were just a phase. But Eli wasn't a phase. He was my brother, my best friend. And now, the one person who made my heart ache in ways I couldn't explain. We'd always been close. Growing up, it was us against the world, two boys raised by a single mom who worked double shifts at the mill. I'd taught Eli how to ride a bike, patched him up after fights, and cheered at his soccer games. He was my shadow, always trailing behind, always looking up to me. But now, as he leaned forward, his hoodie sleeve brushing my hand, I didn't see the kid I'd protected. I saw a man beautiful, vibrant, and dangerously unaware of the chaos he'd sparked in me. "Caleb, you're zoning out again," Eli said, grinning. "What's up? Sarah's stressing you out." His mention of my fiancée snapped me back to reality. Sarah, with her kind eyes and plans for a June wedding, deserved better than this. She deserved a man who wasn't drowning in forbidden feelings for his own brother. "Nah, just tired," I lied, sipping my coffee. It tasted bitter, like the guilt pooling in my chest. Eli didn't push, but his gaze lingered, searching. He always knew when I was hiding something. I wanted to confess, to spill everything and beg him to tell me I wasn't broken. But the words stayed locked inside, heavy as the Montana sky before a storm. The diner door jingled, and Sheriff Boone walked in, his eyes scanning the room. He nodded at us, but his stare felt like a warning. Willow Creek had a way of sniffing out secrets, and I was carrying the kind that could destroy us. Eli, oblivious, waved at the sheriff, his smile effortless. I envied that ease, the way he moved through the world without shame. As we left the diner, the night air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and regret. Eli bumped his shoulder against mine, a familiar gesture that now felt electric. "You'd tell me if something was wrong, right?" he asked, his voice low. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "Yeah, Eli, I'd tell you. But I wouldn't. Not yet. Not when loving him felt like a crime I couldn't confess." The walk home was quiet, our footsteps crunching on gravel. The stars above were bright, indifferent to the mess of my heart. I didn't know how to navigate this, how to love him without losing him, how to keep our family from fracturing. All I knew was that the moment I realized I loved Eli, my whole world began to unravel, and there was no going back. Our house was a small, weathered ranch style on the edge of town, the kind of place where every creak told a story. Mom was asleep on the couch, a quilt draped over her, the TV flickering with a late-night talk show. Eli kicked off his sneakers, and I watched him move with a grace I hadn't noticed before. Fluid, confident, like he belonged everywhere. I lingered in the doorway, wrestling with the urge to pull him close, to feel the warmth of him against me. Instead, I muttered goodnight and retreated to my room, where the silence was louder than my thoughts. Sleep didn't come. I lay staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the diner. Eli's laugh, his hand brushing mine, the way his eyes seemed to see straight through me. I'd always been the strong one, the protector, but now I was crumbling under a weight I didn't understand. Loving him wasn't just wrong, it was impossible. Society didn't allow it. Our family wouldn't survive it. Yet the feeling was real, raw, and undeniable, like a river carving through stone. The next morning, Sarah came over, her smile bright as she kissed my cheek. "You look like you didn't sleep," she said, setting a tray of muffins on the counter. She was everything good, kind, steady, the kind of woman who'd build a life with you. But as she talked about wedding venues, my mind drifted to Eli, who was sprawled on the living room floor, sketching in his notebook. His pencil moved with purpose, and I wondered what he saw when he looked at the world. Did he see me the way I saw him? "Caleb, you're doing it again," Sarah said, her voice gentle but firm. "What's going on with you?" I wanted to tell her, to confess that my heart was betraying us both, but the words choked me. Instead, I shrugged and said I was stressed about work. She didn't buy it, but she let it go, her hand squeezing mine with a trust one didn't deserve. Eli looked up from his sketch, his eyes meeting mine. "You two lovebirds need a room," he teased, but there was an edge to his voice, a flicker of something I couldn't place. Jealousy, curiosity. I pushed the thought away, but it lingered like smoke. That afternoon, I took Eli to the garage where I worked. He'd always loved hanging out there, watching me tinker with engines. Today, though, his presence felt different, charged, like static before a storm. He leaned against a workbench, asking questions about carburetors, but I was distracted by the way his lips moved, the way his hands gestured with enthusiasm. When he reached for a wrench and our fingers brushed, I froze, my pulse racing. He didn't seem to notice, but I felt like I'd been caught stealing. "Something's up with you," Eli said later, as we sat on the tailgate of my truck, eating burgers. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of fire. "You've been weird since last night." I wanted to lie, to say it was nothing, but his gaze pinned me in place. "It's complicated," I said finally, my voice rough. "Just stuff I'm figuring out." He nodded, but his eyes didn't leave mine. "You can tell me. You know. Whatever it is." His sincerity was a knife, cutting through my defenses. I wanted to confess, to tell him I loved him in a way that scared me, but the words were too heavy, too dangerous. That night, I found his sketchbook on the couch. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. The pages were filled with drawings of our town, our house, and Startling Lime. In one sketch, I was leaning against my truck, my face soft and unguarded. The care in every line, the way he'd captured my eyes, made my chest ache. Did he feel something too? Or was I seeing what I wanted to see? I closed the book, my hands shaking. Loving Eli was a secret I couldn't keep forever, but telling him could destroy everything: our family, our future, our place in this town. Yet as I sat there, surrounded by the quiet of our home. I knew I couldn't keep running from it either. The next week was torture. Every moment with Eli was a tightrope walk between love and restraint. I'd catch myself staring at him when he laughed at a dumb TV show, when he helped Mom with dinner, when he sprawled across the porch steps, reading. Each glance felt like a theft, a moment I didn't deserve. Sarah noticed my distance, her patience fraying. "Caleb, talk to me," she pleaded one evening, her voice breaking. I couldn't. "How do you tell the woman you're supposed to marry that you're in love with your brother?" Eli, meanwhile, was oblivious, or so I thought. He'd always been perceptive, picking up on my moods before I could name them. One night, as we washed dishes together, he bumped my shoulder, his grin playful. "You're acting like I stole your truck or something," he said. I laughed, but it was hollow. His touch lingered, a spark I couldn't ignore. The tension broke at the town fair. Willow Creek's annual carnival was a big deal, lights strung across Main Street, the smell of popcorn and cotton candy in the air. Eli dragged me to the Ferris wheel, his excitement infectious. As we climbed into the rickety cart, our knees brushed, and I felt that familiar jolt. The wheel started, lifting us into the night sky. Below, the town sparkled, a patchwork of normalcy I no longer fit into. "Caleb," Eli said, his voice soft against the creak of the wheel. "You're my best friend. You know that, right?" His words were simple, but they hit like a punch. I nodded, my throat tight, unable to look at him. The cart stopped at the top, swaying slightly. The world felt far away, and for a moment, it was just us. "I know," I whispered. "You're mine too." But I wanted more than friendship, and the weight of that truth was crushing. I turned to him, and his face was so close, his breath warm against my cheek. For a reckless second, I thought about kissing him. The urge was so strong it scared me. Instead, I looked away, gripping the railing until my knuckles turned white. When we got off the ride, Eli was quieter, his usual chatter subdued. Had he sensed something? I couldn't ask, couldn't risk it. We wandered through the fair, sharing a funnel cake. But the ease between us was gone, replaced by a tension I couldn't shake. Back home, Mom was waiting up, her face lined with worry. "You boys okay?" she asked. I nodded, but her eyes lingered on me, sharp and knowing. She'd always had a knack for sensing trouble, and I wondered how long I could hide this from her. That night, I dreamed of Eli, his smile, his touch, a world where loving him didn't mean losing everything. I woke up sweating, my heart racing. The dream felt like a warning, a glimpse of a life I could never have. But as I lay there, listening to the soft sound of Eli's breathing from the next room, I knew I was already too far gone to turn back. Days blurred into weeks, each one heavier than the last. I threw myself into work, hoping the grind of fixing engines would drown out my thoughts. It didn't. Eli was everywhere, his laughter in the house, his sketches on the fridge, his voice calling my name. Sarah started pulling away, her texts shorter, her smiles forced. I couldn't blame her. I was a ghost in my own life, haunted by a love I couldn't escape. One evening, Eli came to the garage after hours, his backpack slung over one shoulder. "Thought you could use some company," he said, hopping onto a workbench. His presence filled the space, making it hard to breathe. We worked on an old Mustang together, the silence between us comfortable but charged. When he handed me a wrench, our fingers lingered, and I saw a flicker in his eyes, a question he didn't ask. "Eli," I started, my voice hoarse, but I didn't know what to say. He waited, patient, his gaze steady. The air felt thick, like we were on the edge of something irreversible. I wanted to tell him everything, to lay my heart bare. But fear stopped me. What if he hated me? What if he told Mom? Or Sarah? Or worse, the town? Instead, I changed the subject, asking about his college classes. He talked about art history, his voice lighting up, but I could tell he was holding back too. We were dancing around something neither of us could name. When he left, I sat in the dark garage, my hands shaking. I was losing control, and it terrified me. The next day, Sarah confronted me. We were at her place, a cozy apartment filled with books and plants. "Caleb, I can't do this anymore," she said, tears in her eyes. "You're not here." Not really. I wanted to argue, to promise I'd be better. But she was right. I was in love with someone else, someone I could never have. I left her apartment with an ache in my chest, knowing I'd broken something good. That night, Eli found me on the porch, staring at the stars. "Sarah called," he said quietly. "She's upset." What happened? His concern was too much, too kind. I stood, pacing, my hands clenched. "I messed up, Eli. I don't know how to fix it." He stepped closer, his hand grazing my arm. "You don't have to fix it alone," he said. His touch was gentle, but it burned. I pulled away, my heart pounding. "You don't get it," I snapped, harsher than I meant. His face fell, and I hated myself for it. But I couldn't stay there, couldn't risk saying too much. I walked away, leaving him standing in the dark, his confusion a weight I carried with me. The fallout with Sarah spread like wildfire. By the next week, whispers followed me at the garage, the grocery store, the bar. Willow Creek loved its gossip, and a broken engagement was prime material. I avoided Eli, taking extra shifts to stay out of the house. But he was persistent, leaving notes on my truck, texting me to talk. Each message was a reminder of what I was running from. One night, I came home to find him waiting in my room, sitting cross-legged on my bed. "Enough, Caleb," he said, his voice firm. "You're shutting me out." "Why?" His eyes were fierce, demanding answers I wasn't ready to give. I tried to brush it off, but he stood, closing the distance between us. "Don't lie to me," he said, his voice low. "I know you. Something's eating you alive." His closeness was unbearable, his scent soap and cedar overwhelming. I stepped back, my back hitting the wall. "Eli, please," I whispered, my voice breaking. "Just don't." He frowned, hurt flashing across his face. "What did I do?" he asked, and the vulnerability in his voice nearly broke me. I wanted to tell him it wasn't his fault, that he was perfect, that I was the one who was wrong. But the truth was too big, too dangerous. Instead, I left the room, my heart in pieces. The next day, I went to see Pastor Dan, desperate for guidance. The church was quiet, sunlight streaming through stained glass. I told him I was struggling with sin, with feelings I couldn't control. I didn't say Eli's name, but the weight of it hung in the air. Pastor Dan's face hardened. "Some desires are tests, Caleb," he said. "You fight them, or they destroy you." His words were a cold slap, confirming my worst fears. I left the church feeling more lost than ever. That evening, Eli cornered me in the kitchen. "You went to Pastor Dan?" he asked, his voice sharp. "What's going on? Caleb, why won't you talk to me?" His anger was new, raw, and it broke something in me. I grabbed his shoulders, my voice shaking. "Because I can't, Eli. Because if I tell you, everything changes." His eyes searched mine, and for a moment, I thought he knew. But he didn't push, just pulled me into a hug. His arms were warm, steady, and I let myself sink into him. Just for a second. It was the closest I'd come to peace in weeks. But it was fleeting. I pulled away, knowing I couldn't keep this up much longer. The dam broke on a rainy Tuesday. I was at the garage, working late, when Eli showed up, soaked to the bone. "We need to talk," he said, his voice steady despite the water dripping from his hair. I tried to send him away, but he grabbed my arm, his grip firm. "No more running, Caleb." We sat in my truck, the rain pounding the roof. The cab felt too small, his presence too big. "Tell me what's wrong," he said, his eyes locked on mine. "You're scaring me." His fear was a knife, twisting in my chest. I couldn't lie anymore. Couldn't keep carrying this alone. "I love you, Eli," I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "Not just as a brother. I love you. And it's killing me." The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the rain. His face was unreadable, a mix of shock and something else, something that gave me hope and dread in equal measure. "Caleb," he started, but I cut him off, the words pouring out. I told him about the diner, the Ferris wheel, the dreams that haunted me. I told him I was terrified, that I didn't know how to live with this, that I didn't want to lose him. When I finished, I was shaking, my hands clenched on the steering wheel. Eli was quiet for a long time, his eyes fixed on the dashboard. Then, slowly, he reached for my hand. "I don't know what to say," he whispered. "But I don't hate you. I could never hate you." His words were a lifeline, but they didn't erase the fear. What did this mean for us? For our family? We sat there, hands clasped, the rain a curtain around us. For the first time, I felt seen, but it came with a cost. The world outside the truck was waiting, ready to judge, to tear us apart. But in that moment, with Eli's hand in mine, I didn't care. I just wanted to hold on. The confession changed everything. Eli didn't pull away, but he was cautious, his smiles tinged with uncertainty. We didn't talk about it again. Not directly. But the air between us was different, fragile. Like glass. I wanted to ask what he felt, if there was any chance he could love me back. But I was too afraid of the answer. Mom noticed the shift. One night, she caught me staring at Eli as he helped her with laundry. "What's going on with you two?" she asked, her voice sharp. I mumbled something about stress, but her eyes narrowed. She knew me too well, and I feared she'd see the truth. The town was closing in. Sheriff Boone stopped by the garage, asking pointed questions about Sarah, about why I'd been acting strange. I brushed him off, but his suspicion lingered. Willow Creek wasn't a place for secrets, and mine was too big to hide forever. Eli started spending more time at home, skipping college parties to stay with me. One night, we sat on the roof, a place we'd gone as kids to escape the world. The stars were bright, the air cool. "Caleb," he said, his voice soft. "What happens now?" I didn't have an answer. I wanted to promise him a future. But how could I? Society wouldn't allow it. Our family might not survive it. He leaned against me, his head on my shoulder. "I don't know what I feel," he admitted. "But I know I don't want to lose you." His words were a spark, igniting hope I didn't dare feel. I wrapped an arm around him, my heart full and breaking at the same time. We stayed there, silent, watching the stars, knowing the world below would never understand. The end came quietly, not with a fight or a revelation, but with a choice. Mom found Eli's sketchbook, the one with my portrait. She didn't ask questions, but her silence was heavy, her eyes full of questions she didn't voice. I knew we couldn't stay in Willow Creek. The town would never accept us, and Mom deserved peace, not scandal. Eli and I talked late into the night, Our voices hushed. He admitted he'd felt something too not as intense. Not as clear, but enough to scare him. I love you, Caleb, he said, tears in his eyes. But I don't know if it's the same. It wasn't the answer I wanted, but it was honest. And that was enough. We decided to leave. Not together. Not as lovers, but as brothers. Rebuilding our bond in a place where we could breathe. I found a job in Seattle, a city big enough to lose ourselves in. Eli transferred to a college there, his art a light that kept him grounded. We didn't tell Mom the whole truth, only that we needed a fresh start. She hugged us both, her love stronger than her questions. The day we left, Willow Creek felt smaller, its judgment less heavy. In Seattle, we found a new rhythm, not perfect, but ours. I dated men, slowly learning to accept myself. Eli explored his own heart, his sketches filling with new faces, new stories. We were still brothers, still best friends, but we'd let go of the impossible. Loving Eli had unraveled my world, but it also rebuilt me. I learned that love doesn't always fit into neat boxes, that it can be messy and painful and beautiful all at once. We carried our secret, not as a burden, but as a truth that shaped us. And in the end, we found a way to hold on to each other not as lovers, but as family, forever bound by a love that defied definition.